The sergeant and I were on duty at the gun. We had this 57 millimeter gun. Probably the barrel of the gun would be at least from here to Steve. And then we had a big circle where we would be able to traverse this barrel around, and we had to dig this into lower than the ground, but when we would throw the soil up, you see, that would make a little barrier. We had to keep the barrel up above that. Because it was so flat in that area, they were afraid that maybe the Germans would send tanks down there. So we were set up for that. The sergeant and I were on duty on the 13th, and I said to him, I believe that's an F-109 coming over the mountain. That was the last I remember. But it wasn't. It was one of our own planes. Dropped a 1,000-pound bomb about 3 feet from our hole. And ruined the gun. The only thing that our big 57 millimeter, the only thing that they salvaged off of it was the sight. And they left the rest for junk. They found my helmet about a quarter of a mile away. And I was covered up with soil. And I had received bomb fragments here. Well, one of my buddies said, they thought I was dead. One of my buddies said, well, I'm going to dig him out anyway. So they dug me out. And they called the Marine medics, who came out with their jeep and put me on the stretcher and took me to the hospital on the jeep hood. Being unconscious and having a severe concussion, I don't remember a lot about it. I don't remember that part of it at all. But guys told me this afterward. When I got to the hospital, I do remember one thing. When I got there, the doctor pulled my eye open and said, can you see this light? It was on the cord hanging on a light bulb. And I said yes, and that's all I remember. And 3 days later, I woke up and came to a little bit. And the thing I remember about that was that my head was all bandaged up, of course, and probably ached on this side. And I had a very beautiful nurse who had hair, auburn hair, about the color of scooches. So that's why I like it. That's why I probably always liked it. Anyway.
Sorry about that. Why gives you that color?
The other thing that I remember, they fed me some soup. But the next thing that I remember was that, I don't know how many days this was, probably, let's say 5 or 6 days. I was in this field hospital. It was a tent right there on the battlefield. The next thing I remembered was being on a stretcher on the dock at Anzio, waiting to be evacuated from the war area on a British hospital ship. And while I was there, a song kept coming through my mind, and that song was, God will take care of you. And I think he has. Well, on this hospital ship, there were 2 things I remember. They fed us a lot of boiled potatoes, and they had beautiful wool blankets, white blankets. That's all I remember about that. back to Naples, Italy, where they had hospitals established to receive the guys off the front. And I was there a couple of days, and then I was able to get up. I had a cast on my ankle or leg up to my knee. So I had crutches, and my head was still bandaged up, and I wasn't as bad as, like a turban, but it was still bandaged up. When I walked to the latrine for the first time, I looked in the mirror, I couldn't believe the black marks that were in my face. Evidently, the soil had been blown in, and I looked like I had black freckles. That was about all I could. Oh, while I was there, then the buddy that I joined the outfit with, there were two replacements that came in September, and he and I were together in this squad. And he saw me going to chow, and he got my attention, and then he told me what had happened to me. The thing that he was there for was, after I left,
What was his name?
George Biddle.
Okay.
And by the way, George Biddle's uncle was the Secretary of State or something like that. So he was pretty well known. So I always kidded him about his uncle. And then I said, you'll get all the breaks in the world. But he didn't. Anyway, George had been, they had been attacked by German troops, and he was running down a draw. Our guys were running down a ravine, and George was shot right through the thigh, and it missed the bone. That's almost unbelievable. Anyway, he told me what had happened to me. That's why I know what happened. Okay, from Naples, I don't know how long I was there, probably a week or 10 days, and then I got evacuated to North Africa. And I was in North Africa on Easter, and we had church services in a tent, and that was the first time I'd ever seen palms used for an Easter service, or whenever. They were real McCoy, the palm trees that grew in North Africa. That's what I remember about that. And I was there about 10 days. Then I was evacuated. To get transportation back to the United States was not easy.